Amidst the eerie mist that veiled the woods, the quiet town of Ravensbrook lay in uneasy slumber. Within its heart, a decrepit Victorian house stood, its time-worn walls guarding secrets of the past. Emily, a young girl new to the town, had moved there with her parents. The house's history whispered of forgotten tales, and Emily's curiosity led her to its shadowed attic. With each creaking step, the wooden stairs groaned beneath Emily's weight as she ascended into the attic's realm of forgotten memories. Amidst the dusty relics, her gaze fell upon an unsettling sight, an old decaying doll. Its glassy eyes seemed to peer into the depths of her soul, while its tattered dress held the traces of a bygone era. Despite the unease that prickled at her skin, Emily's fingers reached out to touch the doll, its cold porcelain chilling her fingertips. "Who left you up here, all alone?" Emily whispered, her voice barely a breath in the still air. The attic remained silent, as if holding its breath along with her. Without a second thought, she cradled the doll in her arms, feeling the weight of its history. Little did she know, as she cradled the doll close, that a darkness had awakened, tendrils of its malevolence creeping through the house's ancient walls. Unaware of the entity's awakening, Emily's lips curved into a hesitant smile as she whispered promises of friendship to the eerie doll, embarking on a journey into the abyss of the unknown. Emily's fingers danced over the doll's delicate porcelain features, sending a jolt of unease down her spine. A shiver ran through her as if an icy finger had traced its way along her skin. Just then, a sudden gust of wind swept through the attic, snuffing out the candles like malevolent breath. Darkness enveloped her, leaving her vision shrouded in obscurity. Heart pounding, Emily clutched the doll to her chest, her breath quickening. "Just a draft," she muttered to herself, attempting to brush aside the gnawing fear that clawed at her thoughts. She stumbled her way through the oppressive blackness, her hand brushing against unseen cobwebs, and descended the creaking staircase into the lower floors. The doll's weight pressed against her, a silent companion in the dimly lit corridor. With each step, the shadows seemed to deepen, and the air grew thick with an ominous presence. Emily's footsteps echoed, but they were not alone. Faint, ghostly footfalls seemed to dance just beyond the edge of her hearing. "Hello?" Emily's voice trembled as she called out, but the only response was the haunting echo of her own words. She quickened her pace, her pulse racing in time with the mounting dread. Whispers swirled in the air, a symphony of disembodied murmurs that resonated like distant cries, impossible to discern yet unmistakably unsettling. As Emily rounded a corner, a fleeting glimpse of movement caught her eye. She froze, the doll slipping from her grasp and thudding onto the floor. Her eyes darted from side to side, seeking the source of the phantom steps and the spectral whispers that seemed to close in around her. Was it just her imagination, or had something truly been there? "Is anyone there?" Her voice quivered, her heart now a relentless drumbeat in her chest. Silence answered her, a silence that seemed to leer at her vulnerability. Trembling, Emily stooped to retrieve the doll, its glassy eyes seemingly fixed on her, as if aware of the malevolent forces that now stirred within the house. Emily's unease swelled like a tide as the doll's lifeless eyes bore into her, tracking her every move with an unsettling intensity. Its porcelain visage seemed to morph, its delicate features contorting into an expression of sinister delight. The doll's transformation was a grotesque dance, a nightmare seeping into reality. One fateful night, Emily lay cocooned in her bed, the shadows playing tricks on her weary mind. Just as the moon cast an eerie glow across her room, a sound like distant, mirthless laughter slithered into her ears. Her blood turned to ice, the laughter piercing through the stillness of the house. Her heart pounding like a frantic drum, Emily summoned the last vestiges of courage and slipped out from beneath her covers. The room was cloaked in shadows, the air electric with foreboding. Slowly, she turned her gaze toward the source of the sinister sound, her dresser. There, perched upon its surface like a malevolent sentinel, was the doll. Its limbs twisted into an unnatural arrangement, the tattered dress now draped in a mockery of elegance. But it was the doll's grin that chilled Emily to the bone, a macabre rictus that seemed to taunt her very existence. "I left you on the table," Emily stammered, her voice trembling in the oppressive darkness. She reached for the light switch, her fingers fumbling as she desperately tried to banish the encroaching shadows. With a flicker, the room was bathed in a cold, harsh light, revealing the doll's chilling visage in all its distorted glory. As Emily's gaze met the doll's, a sensation of being watched swept over her, an invisible weight pressing down on her chest. The room seemed to close in around her, the walls whispering secrets she couldn't decipher. Swallowing her fear, she approached the doll with a mixture of apprehension and curiosity, her pulse echoing in her ears. The once tranquil house twisted into a sinister labyrinth of creeping shadows and lurking horrors. The walls seemed to pulse with a malevolent energy, and the air grew thick with a palpable sense of dread that clawed at Emily's every step. She begged her parents to acknowledge the growing darkness, but they brushed aside her pleas, their comforting words masking their own unease. "It's just your imagination, Emily." Her mother's voice was a feeble attempt at reassurance, but the tremor in her tone betrayed her own disquiet. Undeterred, Emily delved into the archives of the town's history, determined to uncover the truth behind the doll's sinister transformation. What she unearthed was a revelation that sent chills down her spine. The doll was more than just a plaything. It was a vessel for a malevolent entity, the tormented spirit of a girl who had met a tragic end within the very walls of the house, decades ago. With trembling fingers, Emily pieced together the fragmented tale of a life cut short. A girl named Isabella, trapped in a cycle of despair and rage after a series of horrifying events. As Emily read, a connection formed between her and Isabella, as if the vengeful spirit yearned for someone to bear witness to her suffering. Armed with this grim knowledge, Emily confronted her parents once more, her voice trembling with a mixture of fear and determination. "The doll is haunted, possessed by Isabella's vengeful spirit. We have to do something before it consumes us all." Her parents exchanged troubled glances, finally sensing the gravity of the situation that had gripped their once beloved home. The air hung heavy with tension, the weight of generations of sorrow and malevolence pressing down on them all. As Emily's family faced the undeniable truth, a sinister energy seemed to gather within the house, as if the very walls were closing in on them. The doll, now an instrument of a vengeful soul, watched from the shadows, its glassy eyes reflecting the darkness that had taken root within its delicate form. Terror's icy fingers tightened their grip on Emily's heart as the doll's malevolent influence metastasized, spreading its tendrils of darkness throughout the once hospitable house. It was as if the very walls had turned traitor, harboring secrets that twisted into nightmares. Objects danced to a malevolent rhythm, defying the laws of reason. Chairs scraped across the floor without human touch, Curtains fluttered with spectral breath, and the paintings that had once adorned the walls now contorted into grotesque spectacles of horror. Every corner of the house seemed to pulse with an unholy energy, a malefic presence that permeated the air like a noxious fog. The very architecture seemed to twist and contort, mocking the sense of normalcy Emily had once known. She implored her parents to see the darkness that had descended upon their lives, her words charged with desperation. "Can't you feel it? Can't you see? It's not just in my head." But her pleas were met with dismissive glances and forced smiles, her parents determined to maintain their fragile facade of normalcy. Their denial was a cruel rejection that left Emily to confront the burgeoning nightmare alone, a lone crusader against the encroaching darkness. As the house's unholy transformation escalated, Emily's isolation deepened. Every step through the halls was a journey into the unknown, her own home now a treacherous terrain. The doll, a malevolent sentinel, seemed to mock her from its perch, its glassy eyes the windows to a world of torment that Emily alone could perceive. The line between reality and nightmare blurred, and Emily found herself teetering on the precipice of madness. The doll's eerie laughter echoed in her ears, a haunting chorus that threatened to consume her sanity. Emily's resolve grew stronger even as her world crumbled around her, a solitary figure facing a nightmare that refused to be ignored. Desperation clawed at Emily's heart like a ravenous beast, driving her to the doorstep of a reclusive occultist who dwelled on the fringes of reality. The air around his dwelling seemed to ripple with an otherworldly energy, casting long shadows that danced in time with her racing heart. The occultist's chilling solution was whispered with a voice that held the weight of ancient secrets. To sever the curse woven into that doll's porcelain heart, you must walk through the labyrinth of your deepest fears. Only then can you confront the vengeful spirit that binds it. Armed with talismans that glowed with an eerie light and incantations that resonated with power, Emily stepped into the abyss. The walls of reality crumbled, and she was plunged into a world where the laws of reason held no sway. The paranormal maelstrom churned around her, a tempest of spectral memories and lurking nightmares. Visions of her fears took form, twisted reflections of her own subconscious. She clutched her talismans, their warmth a lifeline in the sea of darkness. Whispers danced at the edge of her hearing, luring her toward the heart of the storm. The doll's presence was palpable, a malevolent force that seemed to mock her every step. Emily's heart raced, her resolve tested as she pushed forward, confronting her fears head-on. Each step took her deeper into the labyrinth, the shadows stretching like accusing fingers. She stumbled upon apparitions of her past, traumas that had long been buried. The air vibrated with the spirit's anguished cries, echoing the torment it had endured. "Show yourself!" Emily's voice trembled, her breath hitching in the suffocating atmosphere. And there, amidst the swirling darkness, the doll materialized, a vessel for the vengeful spirit that hungered for release. With her incantations as shields and her talismans as swords, Emily faced the spirit within the doll. The battle was a symphony of light and darkness, a clash of wills that reverberated through the dimensions. The very fabric of reality strained as Emily forced herself to stand against the overwhelming force. In the end, it was a single word, a whispered plea for mercy, that shattered the spirit's resolve. The doll's glassy eyes lost their malevolent gleam, and its once twisted limbs relaxed. The house trembled, as if shedding the weight of 1,000 years of sorrow. Emily emerged from the maelstrom, her heart weary but victorious. The doll lay at her feet, its curse finally broken. The reclusive occultist's prophecy had been fulfilled, and the town of Ravensbrook breathed a sigh of relief, unaware of the horrors that had lurked in their midst. Yet, even as the darkness retreated, a haunting echo lingered in the air, a reminder that the boundaries between the realms of the living and the dead were not as solid as they seemed. Within the labyrinthine depths of the house, time unraveled like thread slipping through desperate fingers. Corridors twisted and contorted, leading Emily down paths that defied logic. Every step she took seemed to carry her further from reality, into a realm where nightmares held dominion. Shadows danced like malevolent spirits, their forms shape-shifting into grotesque monstrosities. Emily's breath quickened as she faced the haunting manifestations of her deepest fears, each more visceral and chilling than the last. The walls whispered secrets that prickled her skin, as if the very house reveled in her torment. Amidst the swirling abyss, the spirit within the doll toyed with her sanity. Visions of her own demise played out before her eyes, a parade of horrors designed to exploit her vulnerabilities. Her heart hammered in her chest as the specters of her fears converged, a relentless assault on her psyche. You are nothing, a pawn in a game you cannot comprehend. The spirit's voice echoed like a dissonant melody, its taunts a psychological assault that cut through the darkness. Emily staggered, the weight of her own insecurities threatening to crush her spirit. Doubt gnawed at her determination, but she clung to a flicker of hope, the hope of breaking free, of banishing the malevolence that had ensnared them both. With a surge of sheer determination, Emily cast aside the shackles of her fear. The talismans glowed with renewed intensity, a shield against the relentless assault. As the specters of her own demise converged, she faced them with a fire that burned brighter than the abyss itself. Your power is a facade, she shouted into the darkness, her voice a declaration of defiance. I refuse to be ensnared by your lies. With each step she took, Emily pushed back the encroaching nightmare. The twisted corridors wavered, faltered, and finally shattered, like glass shattering in the wake of a resolute strike. The doll's spirit howled in fury, its malevolence fractured by her unwavering resolve. As the darkness receded, Emily emerged from the depths, battered but unbroken. The doll lay at her feet, its malevolent spirit now a mere echo of the past. The house exhaled a sigh of release, as if its own torment had been lifted. Emily stood amidst the ruins of her ordeal, a survivor of her own personal nightmare. The house, once a prison of shadows, now basked in a semblance of tranquility. But even as Emily breathed in the newfound peace, a lingering unease clung to the air, a reminder that the boundary between reality and the supernatural was as thin as a whisper in the dark. In the heart of the house's labyrinthine core, the stage was set for the climactic showdown between Emily and the malevolent spirit that had ensnared the doll. The room pulsated with an ominous energy, the walls seeming to breathe as shadows coiled like serpents. Swirling darkness enveloped them, a shroud that swallowed every trace of light. Emily stood at the center, a beacon of defiance amidst the abyss. The air crackled with tension, the very fabric of reality warping under the weight of their impending clash. Emily's voice, a blend of fear and determination, pierced the silence. Her incantations resonated with ancient power, each word a declaration of her will to break free from the grip of darkness. Her voice trembled, but her resolve was unyielding as she summoned the forces that had laid dormant within her. The doll, its glassy eyes now ablaze with fury, quivered on its perch. The malevolent spirit fought back, its presence a tempest of anger and despair. The room trembled as the forces of light and darkness collided, the very walls groaning under the strain. In a crescendo of chaos, the doll convulsed, its porcelain form twisting and contorting in ways that defied the laws of the physical world. The air itself seemed to wail, a chorus of anguished cries that reverberated through the house's time-worn corridors. Emily's voice grew stronger, each syllable infused with the power of her conviction. She held on to the talismans as if they were a lifeline, channeling their energy into her incantations. Her gaze never wavered from the doll, her eyes locked onto its contorted form with unwavering focus. And then, with a final thunderous crescendo, the doll emitted a blood-curdling scream, a haunting, unearthly wail that seemed to pierce through the very fabric of reality. The sound echoed through the house, shaking its foundations and shaking loose the malevolent presence that had taken root. As the scream faded, the room's darkness receded, leaving Emily standing amidst the aftermath of their battle. The doll lay motionless, its once ominous eyes now dimmed. Emily's chest heaved with exhaustion, but she stood triumphant, the victor in a battle that had transcended the boundaries between worlds. The house exhaled a sigh of relief, its walls seemingly sighing in tandem with Emily. But the echo of the doll's scream still lingered in the air, a chilling reminder that the line between the living and the supernatural was not as clear-cut as it seemed. The final words of the incantation tumbled from Emily's lips, each syllable a lifeline cast into the abyss. In response, an intense light erupted, bathing the room in a blinding radiance that consumed every inch of darkness. The very air seemed to tremble as the light pushed back against the encroaching shadows, banishing the malevolent spirit into the depths from which it had emerged. Within the heart of the blinding luminance, Emily stood resolute, the embodiment of her unwavering resolve. Her voice, though quivering, carried the weight of generations as it reverberated through the room. The incantation's power surged through her, a torrent of energy that clashed against the spirit's malevolence. And then, as quickly as it had begun, the light receded, leaving behind a room cloaked in a hushed stillness. The remnants of the spirit's presence lingered like dissipating smoke, the air heavy with the aftermath of their battle. The doll, once a conduit for darkness, lay lifeless on the ground. Its glassy eyes were dull, their once intense gaze now extinguished. With a hollow thud, the doll's porcelain form hit the floor, a silent testament to the vanquishing of the malevolent force that had once held it captive. As the dust settled and the room embraced tranquility, peace returned to the house. The air felt lighter, the oppressive weight of darkness lifted. Yet, for all the victory they had achieved, the scars of the ordeal remained etched into Emily's memory like an indelible mark. She stared at the fallen doll, a mix of relief and sorrow swirling within her. The house had been purged of its malevolent occupant, but the echoes of its presence would forever reverberate through the walls. Emily's gaze lingered on the doll, a silent acknowledgement of the battle fought and won, a battle that had irrevocably changed her, leaving her forever marked by the terrors she had faced. Years stretched like shadows, and Emily's departure from Ravensbrook marked the closing of a chapter tainted by unspeakable horrors. She carried with her the weight of that fateful ordeal, the memories etched into her very soul. The town whispered her name as a reminder of the terror she had faced, a tale of survival that transcended time. The once proud house stood in desolation, a decrepit sentinel guarding the secrets of the past. Its windows, once bright eyes to the world, now stared like hollow sockets. The walls seemed to echo with the haunting cries that had once reverberated through its halls, a testament to the malevolence that had thrived within its embrace. Emily's departure had left the house empty, devoid of life and laughter. The air within its walls hung heavy with a lingering darkness, an eerie calm that masked the memories that clung like cobwebs. Passers-by would glance at the house, unaware of the horrors that had once writhed beneath its facade. And in the attic, untouched by the passage of time, the doll remained. Its form was unchanged, yet its presence bore the weight of ages. Glassy eyes stared into the void, a silent sentinel guarding a history of pain and malevolence. Though the spirit had been banished, its residue lingered like a stain that refused to fade. The doll's porcelain visage held a whisper of its past, a reminder that the malevolence had been vanquished but never truly eradicated. It watched over the empty house, a vigilant guardian against the encroachment of the unknown. The attic, once a haven of terrors, was now a vault of memories locked away, its secrets known only to the doll and the echoes of time.